So when you see the demand, you see the demand patterns. You mentioned North America. Do you have a global perspective as well as to what's happening in some of the other markets around the world? Because they've had a very different approach than we have.
Yeah, and we don't have the data that we have in North America elsewhere, but we do have really good just qualitative data from our customers.
Yep.
And so I would say that it feels to us as though Europe and Asia are in a bit of a different place. Asia, for sure, we hear is back. Like they're in the office every day. It is maybe not where it was 2 years ago, 3 years, but it's pretty close. Europe, there are pockets that feel that way, but it's still probably closer to where we are, where it's maybe 2 or 3 days, but it's not 5.
It's interesting. It seems to correlate with labor shortages to some extent, which is
Probably.
if you are worried about keeping talent, you basically let them do what they want.
Yeah.
You're not insisting that they come in. Let's go back, here in terms of your own business again, because there's a lot of discussion around investment possibilities. So people look at this both as tenants, but they also look at it from a REIT perspective.
Yep.
And, so does that completely track when you look at the markets that you think are good investment opportunities? If I'm getting outside your area of expertise, let me know. Would it correlate that places like, New York, for example, would be a better bet than San Francisco?
I think it depends on what your long-term view is.
Yeah.
Right? So if you are looking at buying an asset or repositioning something, that takes time, right? So you really probably have to have a 2 to 3 year view on just what is the future of office if that's the category you're looking at. I think if you look at kind of most investment vehicles today, this is the first time you probably won't see a lot of dollars allocated specifically to office, right? They're really going heavy on multifamily. Industrial is still white hot.
Which you're tracking as well now, aren't you? Multifamily?
We do. Yeah, multifamily. We have our product or our platform is kind of built into 4 pieces. One of those pieces is now growing very quickly in multifamily, which we can talk about. But I would say, for us, it feels like the traditional larger office owners, Brookfield, for example, Blackstone, certainly believe that the office is not going anywhere. And so in some ways it feels
kind
like
of
they're
like vested interest in believing
that. Yeah,
that.
they've got dry powder, they're kind of waiting.
Yeah.
And so, because listen, it's going to be a great vintage for those buildings, right? Whatever you buy now for the next 2 years is going to be a great vintage for you.
If it's Class A and above, I'm guessing,
Or
right?
something you can then, modify to get there.
Okay. So let's talk about multifamily for a second because, when I hear that category, there's so much talk about sustainability. And we've seen markets, for example, like Phoenix say, we're not going to do any more building here. Are you correlating what's happening with climate change? I'm saying this as, we've got smoke in New York and places like
very
that.
Very smoky outside right now.
But I'm really curious because some of the fastest growing pockets of the U.S., like the American Southwest, are also extremely climate stressed. And I don't know if that's actually having an impact on demand.
So we don't, it's probably too early for us to tell the impact of that.
Yeah, that's a very long-term view, isn't it?
It certainly is. But I think what is interesting to us is just the migration of people over the past 3 years, right? I mean, the black swan event of COVID, you saw cities grow that haven't grown in 50 years, dramatically.
Lincoln, Nebraska.
I mean, places that just have never seen growth. And so that is going to change a lot, right, of the infrastructure of those cities. Whether you talk about the office market, multifamily, labor, it doesn't matter. Even just the political landscape is going to change. So it's going to be a fascinating experiment to watch, which I'm excited about.